Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Duffington Talks. I think we're at episode 10 now. I've not checked. That's my mistake. I'm pretty sure it's episode 10. If not, it's episode 9. Yeah, wow, my memory is horrendous. If it's episode 10, hooray. If it's episode 9, hooray as well. Hooray either way. Yep, this is going to be a shorter edition. Well, it should be a shorter edition, less complex and um, hefty topics to talk about today. Um, I want to focus on two things. Firstly, just the Suella Braverman speeding thing, because there's something, I just want to talk about that. And then secondly, um, Vinicius Jr.'s red card. Oh, not his red card. He's receiving racism in Spanish First Division in Valencia. I want to talk about that because also I think it's similar to similar but not the same to what we saw in Italy with Lukaku. So I'll touch more on that later. Like I said, I don't intend for this to be a ridiculously long podcast episode, and we'll start straight off with Suella Braverman, who, and the reason why this is important, typically speeding and sort of ministerial issues are not important, but this is very big in terms of the interfactional um that side taking, I guess would be the word to say, of the Conservative Party. So Suella Braverman was caught speeding in 2022, was given a fine and penalty points. She paid the fine and paid uh, paid the points and fine and what have you. Sorry, I don't know why that took so long to come out of my mouth. Just trouble speaking there. So she did all that in the way that she is supposed to, I guess. However, the issue is that she is reportedly asked a civil servant or civil servants, depending on some sources say it was just one, some pluralize it. So unsure what happened there, but she reportedly asked civil servants to help her dodge a group speeding awareness course and instead ask for a one-to-one speeding awareness course, private one. The issue that brings us to, and the primary issue of why all this attention is being paid to the situation, is that it is in breach of the ministerial code because civil servants are not there to do politicians' bidding, essentially. Civil servants have to remain unbiased. They continue government to government. They do not, as I just said, they don't do the politicians' bidding. And so if she's asked civil servants to help with a personal situation that's not, governmental, I mean, it leads to preferential treatment or all sorts of dubious situations. So this is that has moral implications for the ministerial code. I mean, if it comes out that she did actually do this, if they so Rishi Sunak has just received or has just met with the ethics advisor of the government, Suella Braverman is just about to be questioned or being questioned as I speak, on Monday afternoon, in Home Secretary questions about this situation. And issue number one, and I guess the main issue, is that Suella Braverman has been sacked before because of breaching the ministerial code. So she shared sensitive government information through her personal email. She got sacked by Liz Truss, and then when Rishi Sunak came in, sorry, not back in, after Liz Truss, after Liz Truss's departure, brought her back in, and so the situation currently is that Rishi Sunak has led a lot of rhetoric on integrity, and so he's in a political situation where Suella Braverman is the I'd say the chief right winger in government and probably the chief right winger in the sort of Conservative Party at the moment. And so she has a lot of factional sway within the Conservative Party. But you've also got all of this rhetoric on integrity, on honesty, and all of the um, I mean cases and cases of conservative essentially conservatives how having people help them out, for example, with the PPE and the vaccine rollout scams and scandals that came out through reports. So the Conservative Party is in this position. I mean, they're only putting themselves into mind, but they're in a position where they keep getting into these scandals, and so Rishi Sunak is in a position where, I mean, the first thing first is that there are, I think, enough claims there that there should be some kind of investigation. And if the investigation comes back and that she needs to be sacked, well, then you lose this staunch right wing member of your party. The interesting thing to note is that Suella Braverman has been bombarded with questions yesterday and today. I saw the sort of this morning she was being bombarded with questions by journalists. She has dodged the question, so she said, "Oh, well, nothing untoward happened." I think is the quote that's doing the rounds. However, not uh, she's not denied uh, the the questions that she asked a civil servant for help or to arrange a private safety awareness course, because she keeps saying that she's focused on dealing with immigration, um, which is interesting because that's a media favourite storyline, but I guess that may be for the person, not the actual story, because Suella Braverman doesn't have maybe as much sway as she thinks she has with the people. So that's it. The factional interests, but my main reason for bringing this up is that I have very high standards, or I wish that politicians had very high standards. If you're making laws, also if you're holding people to account, like Suella Braverman, so um, I'd say quite sanctimonious with the policy on refugees, and then you're just going to sort of disregard the laws that you're making, or saying, oh yeah, British people are hardworking, and whatever that, these are non-statements, but then just go and break the laws whenever you want. I mean, there's twice the ministerial code. She's definitely broken the ministerial code once. We know that she did it once. If she's done it twice, I mean, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on the country. Um, yeah, she really, really should go if she does it twice. But it's the same thing over and over again. So just to double it down, that I am very, very much a believer of that MPs should be better and they should be at such a high standard. And the reason why is that when you hold these positions, it may seem unfair, but it's your job, especially in government, to be scrupulous. And so if you're trying to do things like this, where you're speeding, okay, speeding is a crime, and I'm not of the persuasion that members of parliament cannot commit crimes, and say crimes with quotes on, because I guess speeding is technically a crime, but it's a crime that requires a fine. That's fair. People speed if you really that. Some people just get caught out. Some people get caught for all sorts of reasons. That's not. I'm not going to start picking people up on meticulous, small, petty crimes that they've committed. Obviously, if you're a serious criminal, you shouldn't be standing for a member of parliament, but that's by the by. However, then paying your dues and then trying to work your way around it, which he's being accused of, is completely wrong. Like, that's completely and utterly your. I mean, the Conservatives also trying to be very moral, but politicians should always have the moral high ground. And I know more and more frequently in recent years that isn't the case, and I guess that's an issue that I sort of want to direct this segment towards is that I always believe that politicians, even if I could speak, politicians should have the moral high ground. I'm a firm believer of that, and so it's in losing the moral high ground, you lose the ability to well, especially if you're targeting migration or something like that, you lose the ability um, to justify your arguments because if you're happy and willing to cheat the rules for your own benefit, and then you're criticizing people for coming into this country. I mean, quote unquote, illegally. If if you come in and seek refuge, you're not illegal. People have said that millions of times. I've said that millions of times. So, quote unquote, illegally. You're not in a position to tell people when they're breaking the law when you yourself are breaking the law. That's my standard on things. It's the same thing with what happened during lockdown. Many politicians from both the Conservatives and the Labour Party broke the rules, and so it just meant that the rules were becoming farcical because if no one is upholding the laws that are put into place, then what's the point of upholding them? If the people that are putting them there can't even follow them, then it just means that they don't matter because everyone is beholden to the law or no one is beholden to the law. It's not that you don't pick and choose people who were exempt from following the law. That's not how a country works. If the law is wrong and needs to be changed, you change it. That's very basic. So, for my own personal moral standards, she's lost she's lost any position, or she already had for me, with the private email scandal. I'd always been dubious of her, but if this is true, I should say she should have no moral standing, or especially no position to tell anyone else what to do. If you can't do it yourself, worry about yourself before we worry about other people. And I know it sounds very cruel, not cruel, I guess, over. I'm very scrutinous, and I think it could be seen as very overly scrutinous. But I believe that politicians should be scrutinised more heavily than the average person because they have such an important job. People with more important jobs should be scrutinised more. I think that's just the way that it goes, and that's how I believe my life. If you want to take that job on, that's how you should be seen in your job. That's my position on things, and I think that everyone should certainly see politicians, with a very strict light. Some people I think are let them off too easily, and again, I'm both ways. It's just politicians in general should be held to that same account, regardless of who they are. Anyone breaking the law for whatever reason, or breaking the ministerial code is another thing. The ministerial code is especially important this because it upholds what is right for ministers to do, and if you can't follow that, you shouldn't be a minister. She shouldn't have been let back the first time. Again, and I have the opinion if you break the ministerial code, you shouldn't be let back. There should be rules around that, because breaking the ministerial code is a serious breach. It's ridiculous what she did the first time. Getting let back was ridiculous, but she was needed politically. Twice, not good. So that pretty much concludes the first segment, and then on to the second segment, which is about Vinicius Jr, who was targeted with racist abuse during a Valencia match. Real Madrid played Valencia at Valencia in La Liga, which is the top division of Spanish football. And the first thing I want to say is talk specifically about the incident. So what happened was that Valencia had a Valencian ball boy had thrown a second ball onto the pitch at some point whilst play was going on, or just before play was about to go on. And the ball remained on the pitch until Real Madrid were on the attack, and then a Valencia defender kicked the ball that was not in play at Vinicius Jr, who was in possession of the live ball, and both balls hit each other and went out of play. Now this is it's a foul. It's not a foul to have two. It's a foul to have two balls on the pitch, but not a foul from either team. And the player that kicked the ball, who interfered with the live play, was yellow carded. This upset the Valencia fans because it was Vinicius Jr. that said, well, he was on the ball, so he said it was. I mean, all the Real Madrid players were sort of looking for some kind of foul, and the commentator, I think it was via play that I was listening to, said that actually he saw this sort of fourth division match, and it's the Spanish rules of football. I don't know about England, but the Spanish rules of football say, yeah, yellow card to the defender because he directly interfered with play. So the defender is booked, and it's a free kick to Real Madrid. All the players are in the box for the free kick. Vinicius Junior's towards the goal mouth, waiting for the free kick to come in, and then he is racially abused, and he can see the people doing it. They're right at the front, and this completely enrages him. And so the first point is that he is then speaking to Gaia, who is a Valencia player, and he goes over to, I think that they have like more police, like we have stewards, but they look like more like police uniformed people. He's not over to uniformed people, but he's pointing out to staff in the who work at the ground, who is doing the racist abuse. The first wrong thing that happens in this situation is that the Valencia players try, or I think it's Gaia specifically, stands in front of Vinicius Jr, who's pointing at the person that's committing this racist offence, almost trying to push him back onto the game to say let's get on with it. One of the other Valencia players, who this was seen in just a panning shot, gestures that Vinicius should be yellow carded for stopping the game, but again he's being racially abused and the game should be stopped. I mean, that they have. I don't know. I've seen in Ukraine a couple of times where Ukraine had a serious problem with racist abuse with the Shakhtar Donetsk players. They would just walk off the pitch because they couldn't stand it. So I've seen that happen a couple of times, and I think that I don't know if that's protocol in the Premier League as well, to just walk off the pitch and just stop playing until it's dealt with. Either way, the first mistake is that the Valencia players sort of turn it into a bit of. It looks like you can't hear what they're saying, but it looks like they turn it into a bit of tribalism. They're like, the first thing you do if someone's getting racially abused, no matter what team you're on, is you support the person that's getting abused, because it doesn't matter whether you're trying to beat them at a game of football. That does not mean that they should suffer racist abuse. But that doesn't really look like the Valencia players are doing that, which is the first thing that causes an issue for me, and just should cause an issue for everyone listening, because racism should be a higher priority issue than the football match at that point in time. It really, really kicks the tension up, and Valencia, who are fighting for survival in the league, are they're jeering, they're taunting, they're being racist. The police, it looks like, get involved, but we don't see too much of really. Well, I didn't see too much of what really went on. I was just watching it in clips, in chunks, so I couldn't see what happened afterwards. I also haven't found any information about whether he has been chucked out, but Real Madrid have lodged a hate crime complaint, so I'm assuming that they want the staff, Valencia staff, the ground staff, to sort it out. I don't really know what the authorities have done. I again don't speak Spanish, so I can't find maybe there may be more reliable Spanish sources, but yeah, definitely need, and that should, again, my point is the first priority there from the Valencia players should be everyone identifying racists, whoever is ever committing racist abuse in the stands, identify them and get them out. The second thing, and then the problematic thing about the situation is that then it's not weaponized by the media. It's like clickbaited by everyone and anyone, because then Vinicius Jr. got sent off about 20 minutes later for a completely different incident. And again, just to give a short summary of this incident, Real Madrid have a free kick. It's saved by the goalkeeper. The ball, I think, goes out for a corner immediately, and the Valencia player is first to it, and he then starts shielding the ball because Real Madrid are on the attack, and he's stalling the play, and then it just kicks off with everyone wants to get the ball. Vinicius Jr. is sent off for slapping a striker, Hugo Duro. He sort of just catches him in the face, and he's being pulled back as well. And again, you have Rio Ferdinand said on Instagram that he received a red card after being choked and receiving racial abuse. How does this happen? So you see a lot of the instant reaction headlines are Vinicius Jr. sent off after receiving racist abuse, and that obviously gives you the impression that he was sent off for reacting to the racist abuse. He wasn't. He wasn't reprimanded for that, and to be honest, the referee in the position, and to be honest, if I have to say anything, I think the referee made the right decision in both cases. Now, Vinicius Jr. is yellow carded for slapping the player in the face, which I think if you watch the clip, you're never going to say that that's not a foul. The goalkeeper, the Valencian goalkeeper gets involved. He gets booked. There is another couple of players that booked. There's a whole altercation. The racism and that altercation are separate, and they should be seen as separate, but they're conflated by the news that comes back out of it, because obviously they're driving up clicks, and it disingenuously affects the conversation, because the main issue should be the first incident. Don't put the first incident and the second incident against each other. And you can say that it's sort of it happens that the red mist descends, and that's why he gets involved. There are obviously pictures. So here's a picture of Rio Ferdinand also tweeting out that he's basically everyone. I mean, 3 or 4 people were booked in the incident, and it doesn't. The rules are the rules about hitting out at people. Whether someone is fighting you, if you get into a fight with them, typically it is a foul, and that's the thing. He was only booked. He wasn't even given a straight red. Justified card, but again, if you want to say that the first incident leads to the second incident, you can. The incident, I think, was handled very poorly, even from the Valencia players. The Valencia players are clearly very hyped up, I guess is the way to say. They're fighting for their survival in the league. And yeah, they don't do a good enough job. But it's probably, and this is where I will then turn to Italy with Romelu Lukaku's situation. I would say it comes down to attitude, because you've got a load of Rio Ferdinand is English, and you have Mbappe, Kylian Mbappe supporting, comes out and supporting social media. You have a lot of, and obviously his teammates there, and then you have the La Liga president, for example, is Javier Tebas, accused Vinicius of twice not turning up for meetings to discuss what can be done in cases of racism, and because Vinicius then accused La Liga of allowing racism. But that's not Vinicius Jr.'s job. Is not to sort out what he's done in terms of racism. Is that racism is a crime? People get chucked out. They get banned forever. You don't need to speak to the player to know what has to be done. It's common sense. So that's not a. But they're trying to. The league literally then tries to defend itself, and um, we get the same thing. So Carlo Ancelotti came out and said La Liga has a problem with racism. Racism shouldn't be allowed at all. Ancelotti, rightfully also then hits back and says La Liga shouldn't let La Liga has a problem with racism, and this comes into making it a bit broader than the issue is that so Kylian Mbappe suffered racism after the Kylian Mbappe's French suffered racism after the World Cup final, after France lost. Argentina in the dressing room taunted the French players, which was really, really poor considering they just won. You don't even need that's like mental problems there. If you win, you should be happy, not like then taunting the opposition after you win. Like that's her attitude personally. But then what we saw in Serie A, no, it was actually the Coppa Italia. Lukaku was racially abused by the Juventus fans. Unsurprising, Juventus horrible club. And he was racially abused in the first leg of the final, and then he scores, I think, a penalty, and he shushes, so he celebrates it by telling the fans to be quiet, and he's given us a yellow card for and I saw that I saw people then posting what because he was given a yellow card, and then Italian people, Juventus fans and Milan fans, AC Milan fans, primarily what I saw on social media, start posting the rule on every Twitter post. Oh look, it's actually justified. He was given a yellow card for provoking the away fans. Essentially, is what he's provoking not the away fans. He was provoking opposition fans. Sorry, I can't remember if Juventus were home away. No, it was in Turin. So he's given a yellow card for provoking the fans. Now, anyone with any reasonable common sense would argue that if you're being racially abused and then you're responding to that, you're not the person provoking anything. So even if you want to claim that it's a rule in Italian football that you cannot provoke fans, opposition fans, responding to racism is not provocation. I don't think anyone is loopy enough to be able to do that. But this is the problem with Italian football, the club that was involved, and all the Milan fans came up and were defending the situation. Cough cough, you're racist. Cough cough. And that's the problem again. It becomes tribal beyond what it should be, because your first issue should be someone's being racist towards him. And this is, different to the Vinicius Jr situation where Lukaku was directly sent off for responding to racism because that's a foul. Whereas Vinicius Jr did hit someone, that is a foul. The Vinicius Jr one, actually, the Vinicius Jr situation, and I guess this is indicative of the Real Madrid status and that situation. Arguably, the Vinicius Jr situation has seen more response. Lukaku's ban also, Inter repealed Lukaku's ban, and it was upheld by the league. Because again, his celebration was nominally, and I will say nominally because there's no way it can be justified, his celebration was nominally against the rules because he was sent off for aggravating the fans, which he technically, again, I don't think that anyone with any common sense or brain could even be considering that was breaking the rules. But yeah, that's what he got done with. It was supposedly justified because it was the gesture was judged to be provocative and upheld because it was a provocative judgment. But again, provocation means that you're provoking something, you're starting it. If you're responding, I think that there's no real way you can ever see that as provocation, let alone if it's racism. Like, take racism out of the, if the fans are taunting you and then you bite back, and there's a very there's a sort of humorous clip that did the rounds on social media. Actually, it happened, God, a couple of seasons ago now. I want to say it happened 2 seasons ago. It happened at I'm a Portsmouth Football Club fan, and it happened there where I think there's an Oxford player that has a penalty in front of the Fratton end, so where all the home fans are, and the player misses the penalty, gets saved by the goalkeeper, and all the home fans start jeering at him, and he taps in the rebound of the penalty, and then there's dead silence, and it's humorous because obviously it's like the fans are like all happy for like 2 seconds and then absolutely silenced, and then he runs up to the fans and shushes them all, puts his hand over his mouth. That's not a foul in English football, which I think is the right thing to do in any case, because it's just humorous. So I think the player and fan interaction there it's obviously comical. Well, not comical from my perspective because well, we just conceded a goal. It's but regardless, that is a similar situation, and it's just made more humorous by that reaction. And that's not a foul. I don't even think it's provocative to shush the away fans. I mean, people who are going to abuse at football games, racist abuse is unjustifiable in any case. If you're at a football ground, if you want to say someone's bad, in any way, that's sort of justified. You're going to taunt the other team, but taunting individual players for racism or taunting teams for racism should always be unacceptable. And so, yeah, I think in the case of obviously linking it to the Lukaku situation and the Vinicius Jr situation, is that there are problems in 2 European countries for racism. And again, you should not be the defense is, the first defense from La Liga is, Vinicius Jr doesn't turn up to meetings on how we deal with racism, and therefore racism is okay. What does that counterexample actually mean? He didn't turn up to meetings, so he can't accuse the league of doing nothing. He shouldn't be there for anyone to do anything, and him not being there is probably because he doesn't see what the meeting is serious enough. If he sees that as a problem in itself, so that's a situation to deal with. And again, with the Italian situation, yes, you're provoking someone by reacting to racism. Very provocative. Common sense be damned in both of these cases. It is ridiculous that you can even try and justify that situation in either case. But yeah, the bigger picture, I guess, is that racism continues to be a problem in football, particularly in Europe, because I think you can say in England, for example, we've got finally a good track record now of when people are found to be racist, they're arrested, given lifetime bans. I am always of the opinion you're never going to be able to stop people being racist, because it is a horrible thing that people will always do, because there will always be bad people trying to do bad things. It's the same way that you can't stop people committing crime. Don't think that stopping people from committing crime is achievable, in my personal opinion. But by the by, I don't think you're going to be able to stop people being racist. Personally, have that view that there will always be, even if you push it to a minority, there will always be a minority. So you're not going to stop people being racist at a football game. But what you then do is you go, you say that, you get chucked out, because there is no justifiable reason that football is there to be an entertainment sport. I mean, even if your team are losing, it should be entertaining. It's a form of entertainment and skill. There is no justifiable reason why someone who is there for all intents and purposes to put on a show should be subject to racism. I mean, no one should be subject to racism, but in the way that because the one bizarre that you see from anonymous Twitter accounts is the one bizarre justification that people say is, oh yeah, but it's free speech. Is that, well, okay, if you think it's free speech to be racist, then I don't. I mean, that's a different issue, but in the circumstance where you're targeting one person because that's hate speech, like that targeting them specifically whilst they're trying to play football is hate speech, and so even if you think that racism is a form of free speech, or you should let people be racist, um, which I think is a very perturbing thing that probably should have some discussions over in the first place. You can't accept this at all, and that's what happened in the UK. You get lifetime ban. Italy and Spain almost without actually defending the fans, they defend the fans, because saying that Lukaku is being provocative means that the fans weren't being provocative means that racism isn't provocative. That's a weighted statement, whether they realise that or not. That's wrong. La Liga, oh yeah, well that was racist, but you don't help us know what we need to do about racism, so therefore you are also part of the problem, question mark. Non-response, equally as bad. So that's been all for me today. Thank you very much for listening. Two slightly different topics today. Nothing. If I've missed anything major, or these are the sort of things I wanted to talk about, if I've missed anything major, let me know down in the comments. Again, if you have any specific topics that you'd like me to do a sort of deep dive into, let me know. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.